When I picture my dad, he's in one of two places. He's either out on his one wheel, yeah, that's the electric kind, and yeah, he's in his 80s, or he's in his garden, hunched over a desert rose, deciding which branch to cut off and which branch to leave. So I want you to sit with that for a second. That's an 82, 83-year-old man on a self-balancing electric skateboard that looks suspiciously like the kind of skateboard that I used to ride when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. But this one has a giant wheel in the middle of it with a gyroscope and a big lithium battery underneath it. And it's the kind of thing that puts 30-year-olds on their back. And candidly, it did put my dad in the hospital. He broke his wrist, a compound fracture, but he loves it. He falls off, he gets back on, and he keeps on going. That's one of his current outdoor obsessions. The other obsession that he has is a gardening obsession, and it's bonsai. I don't know how he got into it, but specifically it's a desert rose bonsai. I didn't even know that was a thing. That apparently is a thing. And he's been driving around the island of Maui buying up every single desert rose plant that he can find. It doesn't matter if the people are giving it away free, he'll pay them for it. He's looking for the older, the better. Now, before that, it was orchids. And before that, it was landscaping. Before that, it was car restoration, photography, windsurfing, running, e-bikes. He's 83, 84 years old, and the guy's had more hobbies than in the last decade than most people have in their entire lives. My dad doesn't dabble. When he latches onto something, he's 150% in. There are books, there are YouTube videos, and every time I talk to him, that's all we talk about. That's the only topic that he'll talk about. And he talks to me about it like he's been doing it for a lifetime, but the guy's only been doing it for 4 or 5 weeks. Like this bonsai thing, that's all he talks about. And when he talks about it, what he's actually trying to do is he's trying to recruit you into his hobby. He makes it sound like it's the greatest hobby in the world, that if you tried it, it would change your life. That's how every conversation is with my dad when he changes hobbies. Now, the funny thing is, after a couple of months or maybe even years, my dad will switch hobbies, but he'll switch just as he's getting really good at that hobby. And the funny thing is he doesn't abandon that hobby completely. He actually just puts it on the back burner while the new hobby takes over, and he'll switch back and forth between hobbies. For most of life, for most of my life, I thought this was just like one of my dad's quirks, that he would do all these hobbies. And then I started to notice that as I got into my 50s, that my dad was like one of the most mentally alive people, positive, always happy guys that I've ever talked to. And it's not like a performative type of happiness, like where he's trying to show that he's happy. He's just genuinely happy. He's genuinely happy to be alive. Like he enjoys life. Now, I work in tech. I have for a long time, almost 30 years. And there's this type of exhaustion that people don't talk about. It usually hits you maybe in your late 40s. For sure in your 50s, late 50s, it starts creeping you a little more. And it's this trying to stay relevant type of exhaustion that starts to take you over. I notice for me is if I start to feel like I'm not relevant or I'm not important anymore, I'll start looking for things at work to do that'll make me relevant or make me important again. I find myself doing this thing, and I can't be the only one that's doing it, but when you start to feel like you're not contributing or you're not relevant anymore at work, then you really start this frantic burst of trying to find stuff to do that shows contribution or shows relevancy at work. And some of it will even appear like bursts of self-improvement stuff. You just start like dieting all of a sudden, and you start exercising when you don't really exercise. I found myself doing that all the time. And it becomes this low-grade anxiety. It just becomes a pattern that you do. That's not curiosity, that's fear masquerading as curiosity. Both of these things look identical from the outside, and both look like they involve effort, and both require some level of intellectual engagement. But one of them is life-giving, and the other is life-sucking. One of them is generative, and one of them is just depleting. And if you pay attention, you can feel the difference in your body. You can feel the difference just in your energy and how you look at life. To put it another way, defensive learning, which is what I'm doing, is a treadmill. Curious learning is a doorway. And I think for those of us that are in Gen X, those of us that grew up as latchkey kids, we had to learn stuff on our own. We had to maintain this curiosity because there were times when there was nothing to do and you had to find stuff to do. You weren't prompted by videos. There wasn't always an activity. You had to find ways to make yourself curious. And that caused you to do a lot more exploring. That caused you to experiment a lot more with stuff. That could be good or bad. I know we were out there with magnifying glasses, like trying to melt wax and melt tar, burn ants, and eventually you get bored and you'd say, I wonder what that would do to my skin. Then you find out pretty quick. But that was curiosity for us. We would just genuinely want to find stuff to do. You'd find something and you'd start digging into it. Now, somewhere along the line, society told us that compliance was, oh, am I that close to the airport already? Wow. Okay. Now, somewhere along the line for a lot of us, we swapped curiosity for compliance. Our hobbies got crowded out. The weird side projects got optimized and into side hustles, or just they disappeared. The things that we used to do because we were interested got replaced by things that we had to do because we were scared of getting left behind. Meanwhile, my dad, the boomer, who's living in Maui, didn't get that message, and at 83, he's just out there doing what he wants to do. So that curiosity that we invented as not invented, but that we dominated as Gen Xers is now being taken up by my boomer dad, who is lapping all of us Gen Xers at it. These aren't just stories. There's like empirical data that actually backs this stuff up. In 2023, there was an analysis published in Nature Medicine that looked at 93,000 people who are 65 years and older who had multiple hobbies in 16 different countries. And what they found was that those people self-reported fewer depressive symptoms, had better health, more happiness, and had a higher life satisfaction. Man, I'm just trying not to die on this road. And so there's also this study that was done in Japan with 22,000 people that followed them for over a decade, and they found that people that had hobbies had lower dementia. But it wasn't just a hobby, it was like the mix of hobbies. So the more hobbies in the different areas like physical, mental, social, the bigger impact it had. And here's the thing that should grab you if you're in your 50s. There was a study out of Trinity College in Dublin this year that showed that the benefits actually kick in midlife. So the hobbies that you have now, the hobbies that you had a couple of years ago, are actually going to benefit you when you're in your 60s and in your 70s. Now, on those studies, the size of the effects aren't dramatic, and the research hasn't untangled cause and effect, but the direction is unmistakable. And I see it when I look at my dad, and in the time that he's cycled through 9 major hobbies, and I compare him against people that are his own age, there is a difference. Now for myself, I've got a bunch of hobbies too. Right now I'm into hydroponics. I do a lot of 3D printing. I dabble in AI programming, but the one that I really love is watchmaking. It's not cheap, it's not easy, it's tiny screws. I'll never be able to make watches that are worth a lot of money, but it just takes patience. And it's the exact opposite of what I do at work, which is stuff just for productivity and for results. This is really just, at the end of the day, it's a watch, and truly the only people that appreciate the watch will be me. Grab a receipt.
Please insert the parking ticket or present credit card. Please pay for the parking fee. Thank you for your visit and have a safe drive.
Now, the goal of these hobbies isn't to get good. The goal is to stay a beginner. Because the research says so, sure, but more importantly because my dad says so. Every time I call him and he's halfway through explaining desert rose grafting techniques to me, like he's been doing for his entire life, when in fact he started 6 weeks ago. So it turns out the Fountain of Youth isn't shaped like a fountain. It's shaped like a one wheel or a drone or a camera, or right now for my dad, it's shaped like a desert rose bonsai tree. Thanks for listening.